development. AIC CCRI series is actually a collaboration between the Coffee Board of India and the Atal Incubation Innovation Mission of Niti Aayog. So this is an incubation center which is actually here to help the coffee entrepreneurs. And as a coffee entrepreneur yourself, you have been building a great story. We've been appreciative of that.
Thank you.
We just called you on the forum so that you can tell your story to this and impart some wisdom from the sleepy owl house. It is such a wonderful thing. I received your samples today. It's a beautiful branding story. The story of Sleepy Owl is a product which he has taken to a market which is a little unfamiliar with coffee, but what he has introduced is the best of the coffee. He's taking the Arabica coffee from the best of the estates and trying to convert it into a beverage which is more loud there. In the hot conditions there, he has started delivering with the cold brew, and it's a wonderful brand building exercise which he has done. So without much ado, without much delay, I am sure there are a lot of fans of your brand here. Your brand, especially its online existence, has been fantastic. So to hear your story, we're waiting. Please go ahead, Mr. Arman.
Thank you so much for such a kind introduction, and I am very excited to be a part of the new, the WhatsApp group and be among everyone here today. I don't know everyone personally, but there are some familiar names, and I'm excited to get to know everyone better as we proceed along. I truly believe that I'm on a learning journey and on a steep learning curve, and while I might be able to share some wisdom and some experiences that we've been through, I think there's a lot to learn from everyone here, and I'm excited to connect with you all to hear your thoughts and learn from you as well. Sleepy Owl was born out of a problem that my co-founders and I faced in our daily lives. Right, I grew up as an instant coffee drinker, and no complaints. It was delicious cold coffee that my mother would make every single day, and I would really thoroughly enjoy it. Right, it was 90% milk, 10% coffee. Fortunately for me, it was without sugar, and I enjoyed it that way. So I enjoyed the nice bitterness that the coffee came with. But I did not know anything beyond instant coffee. To be very honest, as a 19, 20-year-old also, when I was in university, I did not know, that coffee was, a crop that is grown, that needs to be, harvested. There's a bean that needs to be ground, and there's a fantastic process to coffee before it reaches us, right? And we believe that there were a lot of people in my age group, in the 19 to 24 age group, that did not have this awareness or this knowledge about coffee. When I finished my law school degree, at that point I decided that I want to be an entrepreneur. My co-founder and I had already started a business while we were in law school, and we were interested in starting something of our own. At that time, we weren't sure whether it was coffee or anything else, but we decided that it is the food and beverage segment that we would like to look at, because that is what we were passionate about. So I think the first wisdom that I can share is that when you are starting a business of any kind, you have to have an interest, an inclination, the desire to learn about the industry that you're going to be a part of, right? So while I don't believe that I had all the answers on day one or all the knowledge, I know that I was hungry and thirsty to acquire that knowledge and that information, right? So while researching the F&B space in the country, we'd spend a lot of time at Starbucks, working out of cafes, researching about what's going on and what's trending in the F&B world globally. We had ideas around, a lot of food startups, but one of the resounding things that kept happening was my co-founder would always, either at Starbucks have an Americano and slowly got me to drink an Americano, or he was continuously ordering beans online and using those beans to make coffee in a French press. And the more he did that and the more I got used to it with him, I realized that, that there are so many more people like us who aren't doing this process. And when we asked ourselves why, we realized that there is a slightly steep learning curve to brewing coffee and brewing tea and going ahead and making it from scratch. And we said that, the solution that we came up to this was cold brew coffee. We said cold brewing is a method of brewing coffee in cold water overnight. And maybe that method is simple enough for the average person to want to do, right? So with that little information, with that little insight, and the fact that, a simple Google search in 2015-16 would tell you that cold brew is becoming popular globally. It is becoming something that is sought after. And in India, there was no one doing that product or that category in a serious manner. So we said, okay, this is something that is exciting. I remember calling up, people in Chikmagalur and ordering coffee beans and grinding it at the Starbucks because we didn't have a grinder. So we went to Starbucks and, we asked them to grind coffee beans that we got, and they said, no, we only grind Starbucks beans. So I remember going with my partner to a printer, printing out a Starbucks sticker, putting it onto the beans, and going back to the Starbucks and saying, now, can you grind it for us? And I think they probably knew we were being funny, but they went ahead and ground the coffee for us. And we made our very first batch of cold brew coffee. And, with a little bit of experimentation, we realized that this was a delicious product, something that we really enjoyed, and that it was easy to make. And I remember booking a one-way ticket to Chikmagalur and spending, almost 2 to 3 weeks in the farms, talking to suppliers, traders, farmers, and just asking questions. All we did was ask questions about how the supply chain for coffee works in the country, how we were to go ahead and choose what our raw material would be for our final product. And, we started with, about 5 to 7 kgs was our first order. That's what we started with. And we did our first event at our university itself, where we went for the sports fest. And all we had with us were about 150 bottles, 1 liter, unbranded 1 liter bottles with just a black liquid in it. And we had a menu which had 3 beverages: a cold brew black, a cold brew with milk, and a cold brew with condensed milk, which is like a Vietnamese coffee. And with those 3 items and, about 100 bottles of 150 bottles of black liquid is what it was to most people at that time. We stood there for 3 days educating people on what cold brew is and trying to, get them to try the product. And because cold brew is smooth, it's less bitter and less acidic. It was, even in the as a black coffee, it immediately garnered interest from everybody. Of course, the best seller, no doubt, was the Vietnamese with condensed milk. It's sweet, it's milky, and that's what most students took up. But we realized that after that event, we realized that we have something on our hands, and maybe this is something we can spend our life doing and devoting to. And the last 5 years have been a very, very fun, very exciting journey, full of ups and downs. And now we have a range of coffee products that we sell on our website, for our consumers who buy directly from us. We sell on Amazon, on Big Basket, and we are slowly getting into the, and expanding into the modern trade and general trade side of things as well. Because we realize that to scale in this country, being limited to only online or only offline is not the best strategy. And to achieve scale, we'll need to be omni-channel. So we have a little presence in each of the major selling channels. One thing that we haven't done at Sleepy Owl is opened our own cafes. And like I said, I'm a lawyer turned coffee entrepreneur. I don't think that we have the expertise or the knowledge or the time and the focus to do all things, right? You can't be everywhere and do everything. Someday maybe we will, but as of today, the idea is to be a purely FMCG company that also has a strong direct to consumer arm where we sell online. And yeah, things are going good till now, good enough for me to be here and speak with you all. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm happy to answer any questions, with respect to any phase or part of my entrepreneurship journey, and as well as questions about Sleepy Owl and what we do, and some of the mistakes that we made or the things that we've learned with all of you here.
Arman, first question from my side. It's a great story. In fact, you gave 3 critical points which made a critical learning for a new entrepreneur. The first fact is that you have to be very sure, very passionate about what you do, and go to the places where it matters, and not to actually experiment a bit. And also the very important point which you made was to stay focused. So that's a very critical point. But many of the people here are wondering, how was your first experiment with cold brew? How did you do it?
Okay, so to be very honest, we went online and we saw a lot of videos and a lot of articles that we read online about cold brew coffee. And we understood that cold brew coffee actually is not rocket science. It's taking, a certain kind of coffee, a certain type or certain quality of water that you need to have. The ratio of the coffee to water is very, very crucial when you make a cold brew. And last but not the least is the filtration, right? How you filter it to separate the grounds from the coffee beans. In a French press, you would put ground coffee, add hot water, brew it for a certain amount of time, plunge it, allow the filter to separate the two, and you have a beverage that's ready. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but as a company, our job and our goal has been to simplify things for the end consumer, because we want to, and we are on a mission to get people to, start their coffee journey, right? So with these, so coffee, water, time, and filtration. These are the four things that we read online. I believe I graduated as a lawyer, so we were able to spend hours and hours on the internet researching about these four factors and how they play together, right? So what we learned was that for cold brew, it is best to have a medium roast 100% Arabica coffee that is then coarse ground, right? Because you want in cold brew, the idea is to brew it overnight, so a long time of brewing, which means that you need to have coarse coffee, so the extraction is slightly slower, right? So 100% Arabica, medium roast, coarse ground coffee. These are the three things that matter for the coffee as the first part. So we went ahead, we went to the Chikmagalur, and we got some samples back, and we all made sure that whatever the origin or whatever the notes might be of the coffee, it needs to be 100% Arabica, it needs to be coarse, it needs to be medium roasted, right? That's what we started with as our base. The water, there's a lot of aspects on what kind of water you use. We decided that because we, wanted to maintain a consistent product, we worked with mainly brands. So you looked at Aquafina, Bisleri, Himalaya, and looked at all the water companies and said, okay, which of these, initially to start with, which of these would work best for our product? At the end of the day, the final beverage of coffee has a high percentage of water, so it is important. And of course, I can go deeper into it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here who know a lot more about all the tricks with respect to what kind of water makes the best coffee. But we simplified it as novices, as youngsters. We said, okay, this is what we would use, and we kind of shortlisted onto Bisleri because they were the only ones who provided us water testing reports at that time. So we said, okay, this is something that we can use, and it is safe and it is consistent in quality. The next would be the time, right? So we made multiple batches that we brewed for. No, there would be ratio and time. So ratio, to find out what ratio of coffee and water would go best. Uh, we tried multiple ratios, but we also decided that what we don't want is a concentrate, right? I didn't want to at that point sell a concentrate to which the customer would have to add water to dilute and then drink. Because we realized that giving the flexibility to the consumer to dilute meant that different people would add different amounts of water, and that could result in a weak or a not very nice tasting beverage. And ultimately, they might just blame us, right? So we said we are not going to, make it a concentrate. What we'll make is a ready to drink, right? That when the product reaches the customer, they can drink it as it is, right? We kept it slightly strong in the anticipation that people might add milk, and on the addition of milk, it not get diluted. Uh, so that's how we worked on the ratio of the coffee to water. Then came the time. How long do you brew it for? To be very honest, we did 8 hours. The range is 12 to 24 on the internet, and how other companies do it, and we read about it online, was between 12 to 24 hours. So we tried 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And for our original brew, that the one that we make ourselves in Delhi and manufacture ourselves, we do between a 16 to an 18-hour brew time. And we did this through multiple testing rounds, and we said, okay, this is what tastes best, not to the world, but to us. We were the ones who decided what hopefully the world will like. We didn't have a team of people to guide us on this at that point. Um, the next aspect would be the filtration, of course. And we used a muslin cloth. I think what people used to use for dahi, essentially, right? For curd, how you hang curd. So we used a muslin cloth. In that also, the options were there for stainless steel filters, paper filters, so on and so forth. But the size of the batch that we were brewing, could not access the right paper filter that would not, tear under the pressure. So we decided to stick with a muslin cloth. It's called kora kapda, which means unbleached cloth, so that it's not bleached; it has to be unbleached, which is something that we learned online that was important. And of course, the GSM of the cloth, or the kind of how fine or how the threads, how fine the threads are, was another important factor. So again, we went to a local a cloth maker, cloth shop, fabric shop, and we picked up 140, 160, 180, 200 GSM in the cloth, and we used these to make multiple batches, and ultimately decided what is best tasting and what is the best result coming from, and that's how we finalized the product. Of course, while doing all of this experimentation, we faced a lot of challenges. One thing that we did was we actively reached out to cold brew coffee companies in the US, UK, and Australia, where we wrote to their, like let's say hello@sleepyowl.co. We wrote to their generic email ID, addressing the founders or addressing the core team, and asked a lot of questions that we had and doubts that we had with respect to all of these points. They were kind enough. Most people did not respond, but there were two companies that did respond to us. One of whom is shut down right now, and they were very, very honest and frank with their learnings, their formulas, what's worked, what doesn't work, and that truly helped us do our work a lot faster versus doing it entirely on our own. So I think that was one of the things that we got very lucky with, was that one company who we sent a cold email to actually replied back to us and guided us in the process. So to answer your question, Weber, that was how we came up with our first product, and we still use the same formula today, 5 years down the line.
That's a very important secret which you told. Try, because once you try, luck is also needed, and somewhere it clicks. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm talking about how you went in for commercial production. Now, this was the experiment part of it. You standardized your product. It's a once you had the product, how did you decide on the commercialization part of it, and the commercial scale production part of it?
Okay.
Uh, uh,
So to be honest, I even today, or let's say today, yes, of course, for the ready to drink RTD bottles, we have a commercial production line that we've worked on with a dairy plant that has helped us design it. But to talk back to the first 1 year of the business, we used food grade buckets that I sourced from a supplier in Gujarat at that point in time, and each bucket could make about 12 liters of finished product. And I had 10 buckets, and I said my production is 120 liters per day. Until I can sell 120 liters per day, I didn't have to think for commercialization per se. That home system was good enough for me for the first 6 to 12 months, because 120 liters a day is a lot of coffee. In the packaging that we were selling it in, which is a 1.5 liter box with a tap, it meant I needed to do at least 150 to 200 orders every day to be at full capacity with those 10 food grade buckets that I had. So it was very simple that until we don't hit that number, we don't need to commercialize it and or per se improve it. Of course, when we did raise our first round of funding, we made the big mistake of importing stainless steel containers that were able to brew 150 liters at a time from the US, only to realize that I should have gotten that made in India itself. And it was one of those silly decisions of going to a company that it was not necessarily silly. They specialize in making equipment for cold brew coffee, so we felt that there might be something special to it, but it was just a stainless steel bucket that I wish I did not spend so much money on. But these are the learnings. And yeah, so today we use the SS buckets, the 150-liter buckets, for our in-house production that we do. But to keep in mind, we also realize that for us to scale the ready to drink cold brew coffee,
was very, very difficult because I would need to open production facilities around the country. So we actually pivoted. We pivoted our business where we said we're not going to make the final product anymore. We're going to launch what we then call the brew packs, which is a paper filter that had 50 grams of 45 to 50 grams of coffee in it, to which a customer can add water as per our recommendation and make themselves the beverage. That allowed us to then ship pan India and give customers what we initially said we don't want to give customers the control. Later we went ahead and said no, to scale we should launch this pack which has 50 grams of the same coffee and allow customers to add water and brew it themselves, right? And that really changed the game for us because I was able to then sit in Delhi, right, and make those brew packs and ship them pan India and hopefully even globally.
I think it's the way you're explaining is quite it's from your memory line, very methodological, very schematic. In fact, what
you.
we'll do is now we will have questions about your product. Next, we'll
Okay.
ask you questions about your branding. Your brand journey is quite interesting. I would like
Thank you.
to know
Yes.
about it. And next questions we will ask about is your funding pattern as an entrepreneur. How you went from from an bootstrap stage to the funding stage to the extent to which you are, and later we'll
Okay.
talk about your market extension. So if anybody has any questions about your product development, your product idea development, and the prototype development, and also the stage where he goes to commercial stage, please go ahead ask him.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I'm Alan Fernandez here from Gujarat, and your journey has been very inspirational. And coincidentally, I too am starting with the cold brew, and
Lovely.
your inputs have been very helpful. And luckily, I am going on the right lines that you mentioned. So the main question which I had was that I too am planning to start very modestly. But
Okay.
I just wanted to ask you a question regarding the cold brew, that how important is the preservative thingy? So shelf life is as such up to 2 weeks, but at which stage do you recommend that we should then experiment with some sort of preservation, and also regarding the storage? Because that also is an issue and many people don't know how to store it. So
Okay.
how do you tackle all those problems?
Okay, so Alan, firstly, thank you for your question. I personally believe that if you are making cold brew in the ready to drink format or the concentrate format, and you are getting a 2 week shelf life, right? I would say stick to that. Don't add preservatives. Don't add anything extra to the product, because today's consumer and the consumer of the future is a consumer that is looking for their food and beverage products to be clean label, right? So while I understand that, and I've been through the challenge of a low shelf life product, I understand that it's very, very challenging to scale that product, keeping in mind that it has a low shelf life. But within Gujarat, within the cities around you, you should be able to have a substantial amount of business by delivering it as a fresh product, right? Um, so if you are storing it in a glass bottle, make sure that the bottle is airtight, because the biggest culprit for your ready to your beverage would be air, right? Oxygen. So you need to prevent any form of oxygen going into the product, and that itself should give you actually more than 2 weeks. It should give you. So if your equipment and your procedures and are very sanitary and very hygienic, and you have an airtight bottle for packaging, there is no reason why it should not be stable for 4 weeks in a refrigerated condition, right? So you can improve the 2 to 4 without adding preservatives by looking at your processes, your cleanliness, your sanitation, your hygiene, the cleanliness of the bottles themselves if you're using glass bottles, the capping, and to make sure that there is no air going in. All of these would easily help you go from 2 to 4 without preservatives. And 4 is a substantial shelf life to play with, right? We scaled the company from a zero to INR 10 lakhs per month run rate with the 1 month product shelf life only being available in Delhi NCR in online retail and a few cafes, right? And so we manage that with the same shelf life, 4 weeks, right? Of course, there are other aspects to being able to do that correctly, and you'll get to those things, the branding, the marketing, all of that. but 4 weeks is achievable without preservatives, and keep these other factors in mind.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Any other questions about his product? Actually, he actually have not only the cold brew, now he has the dip coffee as well.
Correct. Yeah, we
Uh,
call it the hot brew bags.
I haven't tasted it yet, but it's a very interesting concept. How is it selling, Arman?
It's doing well. Like I said, India is, we're I hate saying this, but we're a tea drinking nation, right? Broadly, that's how it is termed, right? But since tea bags are popular in India, the behavior, right, of using a tea bag, adding water and dipping it, right, that behavior is very people are very used to that. So when we were one of the first people in the country to offer coffee in that format, it was very easily accepted, and people, definitely try it and come back for it, right? In many cases, it is not the like for more nuanced coffee drinkers, those who have a French press or an AeroPress or coffee machines at home. We might not be their primary, go-to beverage, but we definitely feature as a part of their cabinet where they take it to office or they take it for their travels, or sometimes they enjoy this because it's faster and easier to make versus any other format. So it has, got a lot of adoption, and it has a lot of repeat customer usage as well, and people love it because it's very convenient. No doubt the quality of the product is also good and it's tasty, and we have a range of flavors in that as well, that we've launched. But at the same time, I think, long way from being the only product or the only coffee in someone's cabinet. And I also don't think we want to be. It's nice that people have a range of products in their cabinet, and each product type has its own use case, right? I myself, say wake up and have a hot brew, but during the day I prefer having a cold brew, right? So maybe when I'm in office, or anywhere else, I don't mind having coffee from a machine, etc. as well, right? So I just feel like the use case for different products is different. Coffee is such a growing market. Tea is a growing market. All these products, I think there's a lot of scope for innovation and improvement in all angles.
What is the material which you use for the coffee bag?
Con
Because
fiber.
there's often a discussion about coffee bags not being possible, just like the tea bags. At
Correct.
least,
Correct. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So coffee bags like tea bags are not easy to make. So, when we launched that product, we went to and searched for and spoke to almost every and nobody was able to, help us with something that would for coffee. And, that was when we had to start the sourcing process for the filter paper from China. And that's where our filter paper comes from today. And we are sourcing, 100% biodegradable corn fiber filter paper. And, the biggest advantage is that the fiber, that the, paper that we source, filter paper, can be ultrasonically sealed. Most tea bag machines and most tea bag manufacturers do use nylon, and they have the tagging happens separately onto the tea bag, right? So the traditional methods did not work for us, and we had to go back and spend almost, it took us 12 to 18 months to crack the machinery, the paper, the quality of the paper, and what paper would allow for a perfect brew.
okay. So, where do you source it from? Which country?
China.
China. Okay. So, any other questions about the product as such, participants?
Hello. Hello,
Yes.
I'm audible.
Yes.
Hi, Arman. Good evening. Long time customer of yours, and I have before I start, I just have to big thank you to you because 2 years ago I was a coffee rookie. I used to drink instant coffee, but it was Sleepy Owl which began my journey towards coffee. After then, there has been no looking back. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
My question, which is to you, is something which still baffles me to this day, is about the roast, because you mentioned that you use a specific medium roast. So
Mhm.
how did you come to that point that this is the one which will work for the Indian customer?
I don't think it was more from the Indian customer standpoint. It was more that, all our research told us that for a cold brew, a medium roast is what will give you the best taste and the best result, right? So we just went with it. Yeah, I I can be very frank and very honest. at that point in time, our knowledge and our expertise with coffee was very limited, right? Uh, we read and it said, please medium roast, best result. And if you go on Reddit and you type cold brew coffee on Reddit and you talk about, and you go to the subreddit groups and all of that, and you go deep into the internet, right? This was the recommendation from all home brewers, all companies, all baristas. Everybody said a medium roast is best for cold brew, right? Today we have a dark roast available in the cold brew as well, and people love it, right? But to start, we felt like a medium roast would be the best. Second thing is, obviously, different coffees have different profiles, right? You could have fruity notes, you could have chocolatey notes, so on and so forth. One of the things that we liked most when we tasted it, and we felt that in India, people will be adding milk to it. So maybe a coffee bean with more chocolatey and nutty notes will go well. So we took feedback from our roaster and said, okay, let's do 100% Arabica medium roast that has chocolatey and nutty notes. And, to be very honest with you, I'm a big fan of my own cold brew. I've tried everything in the market. And a lot of our customers have also told us that we've tried a lot of products and brands, but some reason, somehow, and it's not rocket science, I shared everything openly here. They say that nothing beats Sleepy Owl's taste. So maybe it's the chocolatey and nuttiness of the coffee that, is good for cold brew. I have tried fruity cold brews. Personally, I don't enjoy it. But yeah, it varies from customer to customer.
So do you roast yourself?
No, we don't. We work with a partner roaster in Chikmagalur.
Sure. Thank you.
Arman, do you have specific sourcing from farmers? You have
So we
specific farms?
used to, when we started, we were sourcing directly from farms. But when I mentioned we started with our first 5 to 10 kg batch, then we moved to 100 kgs a month. At that point, we were sourcing from a single estate. But today we are close to the between the 5 to 7 ton mark at a monthly level. And unfortunately, I am not able to source that from a single estate right now. So we do work with multiple plantations to be able to put together the right quantities.
Will you be working with any of the GI tagged coffees separately, to work with them?
We haven't discussed it internally or considered it right now, but I still believe that there's a long way for Sleepy Owl to go in their journey and a lot of new things to come. So I will never say never, but yes, see, one of the things that we do, right, Weber, is that we say, okay, we offer the customer an original dark roast and a range, vanilla, hazelnut, caramel, a bunch of flavors which are all made with the original, which is the medium roast, right? Um, my product quality, when a customer who's had my original or dark roast 2 years ago, right, has it today and has it 1 year from now, it should taste the same, right? And for that to happen, I have to make sure that my sourcing is very, very similar, right? As a company, and one of the we haven't done or marketed or ever said, okay, we estate 1, estate 2, estate 3, because we don't believe that necessarily it's great for the brands that are doing it, but it does not necessarily simplify coffee for the average consumer. What Benjamin said today, that I was an instant coffee drinker and Sleepy Owl, gave me the opportunity to come into the world of freshly brewed coffee. We were able to do that by keeping it very, very simple. Had he come to my website and seen that I have coffee from 10 estates, maybe it would have led to more confusion as to, okay, what should I try, what should I not, right? So our goal is to convert all tea drinkers and instant coffee drinkers into coffee drinkers. And for that, the idea is to simplify it and market it in a way that is simple and easy, right? But yes, to answer your question, maybe in the future we could do and work with specific, kind of coffees, and maybe we'll talk about that and explore that in a way. But as of today, this is where we are at.
Um, has there been any how's the technology being used in the IoT in your product? Do you use traceability, blockchain? Do you think it's going to add value to your product? Do the customers appreciate that?
It will add value to our product definitely as we move along. But will it add value to my customer right now? The specific kind of person that I'm targeting, we're not sure, right? So yeah, that's how we are thinking about it.
Okay.
we are putting the customer at the center of this for now.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think any other questions on product, or should we move on to the wonderful brand journey, because the Sleepy Owl story is something which is very fascinating. Any question on the product? I think we don't have any. We'll go to the next question. Why Sleepy Owl?
So we were lawyers turned entrepreneurs and coffee entrepreneurs, and we've seen, sleepless nights, long days, a lot of tired days, and we realized that launching a consumer brand in coffee, your name has to be catchy, something that people remember and resonate with. So we went ahead and, the moment Sleepy Owl came out of my co-founder's mouth, I said, yes, final, let's do this. It is something that maybe we could use on our merchandise or independent on the name, right? Hopefully you see a Starbucks logo, you know a Starbucks, right? So we said we have to have a logo that is memorable, that if someone looks at it, they can say, okay, this is Sleepy Owl. And, it was our way of cutting through the clutter in the market, right? There are so many brands, not only in coffee, but in general, right? Today, all of us are exposed to on social media, on advertisements, on TV, always exposed to so much information. So we felt that we have to have a good name and a good logo that and a good branding overall that will really define if people remember us or no, right? Uh, Product, no doubt, it has to be the best, and you have to keep striving to improve the quality and make it better. But along with that, you have to be memorable for a customer, so that when they have to tell their friend, hey, I enjoyed this brand, they should remember who they are talking about and they should not forget easily, right? So that was our goal with respect to the naming and the branding initially.
As a question for on behalf of entrepreneurs, did you hire an professional agency for your branding and positioning activities?
No. So when we first launched in 2016, I was working at an education technology company. I was working in their marketing department, and the graphic designer used to sit beside me. So he designed the first logo and the first branding that we used for the first 4 months. Once we launched our product and our direct to consumer website, we worked with a freelancer in the UK who we found online, who did an updated logo. That was logo number 2. And he did a little bit of a rebranding for us. Then between then to 2018, for the next year and a half, 2 years, we were working with friends who were using that logo to make new packaging and new products. But a good designer or even an average person could look at our packaging and say, logo has a different thought process, the typography is different, and the design is different. It looks like 3 brands in one. But honestly, we didn't have the bandwidth or the money or the ability to go ahead and hire a professional agency to do it for us. And we were working with friends, family, colleagues, anyone who we could find. But yes, when we launched our ready to drink bottle, we had raised a round of funding, and we said, okay, one of the places where we should invest some money is to get a professional agency to come and rebrand us in a way that the branding can be scalable, right? So tomorrow, if I launch a can or a Tetra Pak or open up stores or launch anything, right? I can work with the same design framework, right? We did not have that before, and we managed to do that from a professional agency. But to most people starting out, that would be unaffordable. It was unaffordable for us also, or you have to find somebody who can help you create this in the beginning. But it usually doesn't happen, right? You learn as you go, right? When we started in 2016, we didn't even know we'd be where we are today, right? So it evolves. Now today, if you ask me, most of you here and most people who consume from us today don't even know what logo 1 and logo 2 look like, right? So when we were changing logos and changing our theme and design, we were very stressed. But it's funny now to look back today and say that more than 80% of today's consumers that we have, or more than 90% of today's consumers, don't even remember that we had or didn't know us back then, right? So you have to keep an open mind towards your branding and positioning, and never overstretch yourself, right? We only went to that agency and spent the kind of money we did because we could afford it at that time. But when we couldn't, we didn't lose heart or stop our business or our work. We went to who we could find at that time and work with them, and uh, you know uh, created what we did.
In terms of what is a critical difference that the agency's professional opinion make? For example, if you had done it on your own, do you think your sales would have been lesser, or would it have been better, or the professional agency's positioning made it a recognizable brand? What do you think? And does it matter?
I think see, it varies from agency to agency, from person to person, right? So when we went and met about, we decided that, okay, we're done working with, freelancers or friends or, people. We want to work with someone who's done good work for other brands before, right? So we went and met multiple agencies and multiple people to understand how they think, what they do, right? And ultimately, a decision like this, it's not made on not just necessarily on, okay, he's done work for other brand or he's made this logo or that logo. It ultimately boiled down to the relationship between us and the person who was working on it, right? So the kind of questions he asked us, how he understood our vision, how he listened to our story, how he understood where we want to go in the future, right? The entire process, it was like how you're dating before you get married, right? So like absolute in-depth detail to understand us and the brand deeply, right? And there was only one person among all the people that we spoke to that really went so deep with us and made us question things, right? And really brought out the everything. His question will be why, like, why sleepy owl, why owl, what does it mean, what do you want your customer to feel, what is the emotion that they should feel when they receive your product, how should they feel when they see your brand somewhere, he went so deep into it that we felt that, okay, he has an understanding what it takes to probably build something memorable. And we're grateful for that decision, because today I do believe we have a branding or a presence or a logo that might truly be able to last, our lifetime at least.
Any other questions about the brand journey of Sleepy Owl?
Arman, this is Jekma. It's very inspiring to hear your journey. I just want to know, most entrepreneurs get stuck in, branding, digital marketing. When do you time it? When do you get into it? What kind of money do you spend on it? Who is the right partner? Because there's quite a few players who call themselves what they call, what they think they are, but the discovery also costs money. So how much of digital marketing you focused on, and how successful was it?
Okay. So, we, like I said, we started in 2016. We were completely bootstrapped. For the first 8 months of our business journey, I'm only sharing my experiences. Like, this is whatever I'm sharing is my experience, matter of fact, what happened, and then we can all pull out different lessons from it, right? So 2016 to 2000, early 17, right? We didn't do any marketing, no digital advertising, no digital marketing, no marketing spend, right? $0 spent on marketing. And we would proudly tell everybody that, listen, we are growing, first month we did 1 lakh in sales, then we did 1 lakh 20, then we did 2 lakhs, then we went back down to 1 lakh, and then we went to 50,000 because it became December. And December, there was no cold brew sale in NCR, right? So we said, oh, okay, we are managing all this, but we are not spending any money. Only later did we realize that we are foolish, right? If you don't spend money on advertising and branding or advertising and marketing, how will you truly understand, the scale that your business has? Organic, word of mouth marketing and sort of free PR articles or a free blog or a influencer that talks about you, all of that is fine. That is something that happens in the background. But to truly scale a business, to really build a business that is flowing and growing, you have to spend money on advertising, right? That's how you acquire your customer, that's how you acquire a new customer, right? Initially, for the first 6 months, all customer acquisition was done through friends, family. I messaged every single person on my WhatsApp, every single person on my Facebook, every single person on my LinkedIn. Kisi ko nahi choda. I got blocked on the platform also ki you are messaging too much, copy paste message, don't do it. But that's when we realized that this is not the way to grow a business. You have to spend. Now, to answer your question, where do you spend? How do you spend? Right? It's completely trial and error. Right? We are still learning. We are still figuring it out. Right? In mid 2017, we started working with a freelancer. Right? individual person who had experience in digital marketing came on board, really, helped us with our Google AdWords, with our Instagram and Facebook marketing, took whatever fees that he had to take as a part of that arrangement. You don't have to spend lakhs and lakhs. It's all experimentation, right? You put 30,000, see the result. If it's good, maybe more. If it's not working, change your ads, change your creatives, so on and so forth, and keep tinkering and playing with it to make sure that if you're spending, your return should be 3 times at least, right? As you scale, it gets tougher to hit a 3 and a 4x return. But initially, to get a 3x, 4x return is very much possible, right? So for every $1 you spend, you get $4 in sales, right? We worked with this freelancer for a long time and we did it. And of course, after that, we switched to another freelancer, then another freelancer. Only 2 months ago, we started working with a professional agency again that is working with multiple clients and multiple brands. It's only been 2 months. Too early to say what the result is or how it will be or how it won't. Just to give you an example, April was great, May was great. In the month of June, because of Apple's privacy policy and Apple Facebook issues that are going on, Facebook advertising did not do well for anybody in the e-commerce space. Nobody. Everybody suffered, right? So these are things that keep happening, but it's a learning process and we all are learning. So you have to try. It's trial and error. Don't spend beyond your means. If you have 15,000 for marketing, that's a good start. See the result and return on that. Maybe next month a little more, maybe next month a little more. And then it's a cycle that you get into. For partners, preferably see if you can find good freelancers to work with, because freelancers usually have good budget, come in good budgets and are manageable, and you can work closely with them. With agencies, it's always better to try and get a referral or a review from somebody else who's worked with them to see that, okay, are they credible? Are they reliable? Will they do a good job? And then go with an agency. That would be my suggestion. But there is no right and wrong in this. Everybody's doing different things. As there might be a big luck factor to what works when for someone. And there's no right and wrong.
Thank you, Arman.
Thank you.
Hey, hi Arman. This is Kalepan. I had a two-way kind of question. So you were mentioning about, right, like India is predominantly a tea drinking nation, right? And a lot of from my little research and what I understand, there's a very focused coffee drinking group as of now. So your product, when you launched it, right, the way I see cold brew, like I have been a traditional coffee drinker, but I got into cold brew a little late comparatively. So my sense is your initial customers would have been your existing coffee drinkers, right? And then now you will be on the journey to get like new coffee drinkers on board, right? So what is the difference in, say, marketing communication that you do today versus what you did then? And the second question was, how did you get your first customers? Like, who were your first 1,000 customers, for example? And what kind of channels? Yeah, you mentioned about directly reaching, direct messaging and all that. But beyond that, what kind of little marketing activities that you do to get your, like, say, first 1,000 customers? Yeah.
Okay. So, like you're absolutely right. When we first launched our cold brew, right? Yes, the target was to look at existing coffee customers who are already drinking coffee and convert them into, or get them to try cold brew, right? At that point, the focus wasn't on saying, okay, there are tea drinkers who should shift over to coffee. I think that came to us much later when we launched our hot brew dip bags, right? Initially, it was, okay, there's a certain segment of people that are consuming coffee and having cold coffee and coffee, and we should get them to try cold brew and appreciate cold brew. That was our way of looking at it, right? So that's the journey that we set out on. To talk about how we managed to get the first 1,000 customers or the first 1,000 customer mark, like I said, we were very, very young when we started, right? I would not recommend this to most people, or at some level, it's also good to do it, is where for the first 1,000 customers, they first started with friends and family, right? Then extended friends and family. Then it went to, you have to go and we convinced Little Black Book, other blogs, other people. I used to read a newspaper and then email, the editor of an article that, okay, we started, please write about us. trying and getting as much free PR coverage as possible, that you can get, because all of these methods are ways for you to get noticed in the market, right? Once you get noticed in the market, that's when people start buying you. The next step was very, very, very important, and I still do this. You need to, as far as possible, at least for your first 1,000 customers, after they order, wait for 2 weeks, pick up the phone and call them. Talk to them, understand how they bought, why they bought, where they bought from, what their experience was like. Could you as a brand have done anything better? What do they prefer? What time of the day do they drink it? How do they drink it, black or with milk? These insights, I think we did this very, very, very aggressively in the beginning for the first 1,000 customers, right? And that this whole process, this whole journey, right, of you interacting with your customer directly is what allowed us to go from 0 to 1,000 quite fast. The 1,000 to 10,000 was really tough, but the 0 to 1,000 was fast. But we were very, 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 very regular with this procedure of making these phone calls.
Got it. And today, like for example, when you go after like completely new users, like who have not tried out coffee, how does your communication differ to say when you started out?
Can you come again?
So I'm saying today, are you taking the route of say like an educational route, right? Hey, this is coffee, this is how it is made. It's like you build that story and say, yeah, this is coffee, or you go and say, hey, this is a refreshing drink to have it, and your mood will get uplifted.
Okay, so it's a so let me explain it this way, right? So we have a range of products, right? So the cold brew is unfortunately still a highly educational product, right? We still have to explain to people how to brew the cold brew, educate them about what cold brew is, about its benefits, so on and so forth, right? In the hot brew, the idea is to say this is the most convenient and the easiest way to have freshly brewed coffee, and that's the marketing for that product. We have a ready to drink bottles. For the ready to drink bottles, it's a different story altogether. In that, it's more like, okay, this is a refreshing cold brew coffee that is, clean label, low sugar, and therefore one of the healthiest cold coffees on the market. And that's how we market that product. So each product gets its different treatment. Coming at the brand level and brand marketing, because you have to also understand there's always brand marketing and product marketing, right?
Yeah.
At the brand marketing level, we say Sleepy Owl is bringing the freshest coffee in the most convenient manner possible for all consumers, right? So that's how we position ourselves when it comes to the brand. But each product needs its own treatment.
Got it. Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hello?
Is there any question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Arman, I just wanted to ask you a question that whenever we determine a brand or what we want to convey through our brand to the audiences, so do you think that puts us in a box or so? So our like delivery or education or what we want to convey is very limited, and if so, then how do we overcome the same?
Your voice was breaking, Alan.
Hello? Yeah, am I
Hello.
audible now?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Yeah. So actually, I just wanted to say that as a brand, we there is a certain playground in which we are constricted,
Okay.
and so how do we overcome that, or how do we make the most out of it? So there are some things that we cannot break as a brand, and some things which is acceptable or not acceptable. So how do you optimize the same?
Okay. So I'll give you, let me give you an example, right? Okay, so we, let's put it this way. My co like as we're a 3-member team, right? Say my co-founders and I, we're 3 of us, right? We each handle different parts of the business, right? So I have my marketing co-founder Ashwajit, who looks at all marketing related activities, right? So we have come together and tried to create a framework within which we work. That okay, this is the standard that we will hold. This is how we will communicate. This is the tone that we will use in our communication. If you write an email to our customer support department, or you write to us on Instagram, or you talk to our customer support team on the phone, the communication tone has been decided as what will the brand sound like, right? You have to be clear on that from day one, and every member of the team has to be trained keeping that in mind, right? That this is what this is why we exist, and this is what we do, and this is how we communicate with the world, right? You have to stick by those rules and stick to your guns, right? In the beginning, when we were trying to market and educate customers about cold brew, there was a lot of difficulty in convincing people or educating them and training them. In fact, to all the restaurants we would supply to, I would personally go and train all the staff members of the restaurant on how to market it and how to talk about it. Remember that, say you were to walk into a restaurant and Sleepy Owl cold brew is available on the menu, right? And you ask the staff, what is cold brew? And the server or the staff member cannot answer your question. It's embarrassing and difficult for me as a brand, right? So we overcame that challenge by me personally going to every restaurant that we were a partner with and convincing and talking to the staff and training them. We gave them training manuals in English and in Hindi so that they, if ever asked a question as to what is cold brew, where does the coffee come from, uh, how many hours is it brewed, they had the answers to this question. That allowed for the product education to happen even at that level. So I don't know if this answers your question, but this is how we were doing it.
No, no. So even my question was somewhat an open-ended question. So, but yeah, I got pretty good inputs for the same. Thank you so much.
Arman, we have actually run out of time for 1 hour, which I had requested from you. I hope we can continue for 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes.
Yeah, please. I'm good till about 6:10. I have another call at 6:15.
Okay.
I wish I could stay forever, but we can do this again.
Quickly, yeah. Actually, we will bring you on board. Actually, the next question we have is, the process we often follow in LIC CCRI CED is that we have a pre-incubation training program, and the people get into the incubation by applying for it. So when they come for this, most of them have an aspiration that they should get funding. They feel funding is the objective they are actually here for. So just please tell your funding story. Very critically, I want you to tell about what is the revenue you achieved before going for funding, or what stage were you in before you went for funding, and what kind of funding did you get?
Okay. So, thank you for bringing up this question. I truly believe that, funding per se should not be your motive or your goal when you are starting out, right? Because keep in mind, especially if it's equity related funding, which means when you start, you own 100% of the company. As you raise funds from external sources, you keep diluting your share of the company, right? And once you raise funding, you are expected to press the accelerator, move fast, grow fast, and then raise more funding, grow faster, raise more funding, grow faster. And as you keep raising funding, you continuously dilute equity, right? So ultimately, you are not left with the whole pie, you're left with a portion of the pie, right? Now, when anyone starts a business, right, you have to understand why you're starting, what is your motivation, what is your goal, right? Now, and while I say all this, I'm also going to explain to you why we took funding and how that transpired, right? When we started in 2016, we said, okay, we honestly, we said, okay, we love cold brew, it's so tasty, maybe more people will buy it, maybe there's a market for it, and we started. Very limited market research, very limited understanding of how big or how much I can scale this, right? We started and we had good sales. We were also, let's say, at a monthly level, kind of profitable, but we were not scaling beyond a certain threshold, right? We knew that we wanted to launch ready to drink coffee and compete with Starbucks and Nescafe on the shelf. That was our goal, right? To do that, to achieve that, I needed to work with, glass bottle manufacturers, factories, work with a dairy plant, source bigger levels of coffee, set up a plant, all of that, for which I needed external capital. That capital could have come in the way of a loan, it could have come in the way of, maybe more a debt financing, it could have come in the way of equity, right? So we concluded that, we are looking for the right investors who are willing to be with us on this long journey, because we want to be a consumer brand, right? that is scaling and that is giving competition to the Starbucks and Nescafes of the world. I don't think at that point we realized that there is a market enough out there for us to compete with the big MNCs in this space, right? Having said that, not every business needs to take that route, right? My wife runs a kombucha startup. She has different motivations, different goals. They run their own kombucha factory. Uh, they are happy and are working towards growing month on month, but they're not interested in taking external funding, don't want to dilute equity, want to own the company, grow at their own pace, and keep it to that, right? Whether they go from 20 lakhs to 20 crores, that is not their goal, it is not their motivation, right? They have a mission which is to employ more women from difficult backgrounds in their factory, and everything that they do revolves around how they can help this community around them. So your mission matters. Our mission was make great coffee accessible to every Indian, right? However that might be, whether it's in the bottle format, whether it's in the brew pack format, whether it's in the brew bag format, and make drinking coffee very easy and very convenient. To execute this mission of ours, we needed funding, right? Now, how we got the funding? Like I mentioned, when we started, it took us, so for the first 6 months, all we managed to do was a monthly revenue of 1 lakh rupees per month, 1.5 at the max, right? It was at that point when we went to an investor and he said, okay, we are looking to raise money. And they said, sorry, we won't even look at you unless you are doing a minimum of 10 lakh rupees a month. So we said, okay, that's what it takes. And that's the kind of level of business you need to be at before you go for a fundraise. Let me clarify to you that number, which I'm quoting here, 10, is a 2016-17 number. That number today in today's business environment is at least 5 to 6 times that, right? So it's not as easy or to raise money from investors if you don't have a run rate of maybe 50 lakhs plus monthly. At least that's the way I'm looking at it, unless you are a second time founder, third time founder, have experience in scaling businesses. So we said, okay, we have to go from 1 to 10. How do we do it? That's when we invested in digital marketing, in promotions, in sampling, entered a little bit of the retail stores, and we hit that 10 number. At that 10 number, we raised our first round of funding from DSG Consumer Partners, and we started scaling the business from there. Yeah, and after that, with that money, we were able to create new products, build new systems, get a team, open up a better factory, import that equipment from US that I never needed in the first place. Those mistakes you make as well, right? So money coming in is not always a good thing, right? The utilization of that capital is also very, very, very crucial. And from then on, we've been on this journey, and we've raised 2 rounds of funding, and that allowed for us to scale significantly.
Thank you very much for the clarification, Mr. Arman. What percentage of equity did you give away, and what multiple of X of your revenue was your investment?
So at that point, your first part of the question was?
What equity did you give away? In fact, both are related. I just wanted them to realize that how much equity they have to forego for the amount of revenue they would have generated. There is a correlation between them. So your answer will help them understand that.
No, most definitely. Unfortunately, I will not be able to dilute the exact equity percentage. But in anyone's seed round of funding, right? Firstly, a lot of factors. It depends on your run rate. It depends on who the investors are. Are you looking at venture capitalists? Are you looking at angel investors? Right? It depends on your pedigree as a founder, right? We were first-time founders, or at least first-time founders in this space, in this business, right? So we diluted significantly more than we wished we had. But a standard range is between 15 to 30%, or is what you dilute in your first round of funding, because that is the round where the investor is taking a very, very serious bet on you, right? And on your business to grow. So it depends on the amount you are raising. We raised about 3.5 crores in the first round. It depends on your revenue run rate, whether you raise at 10 lakh monthly, which is 1.2 CR annually, or you raise at 50 lakhs monthly, which would be 6 CR annually, is a big difference, right? So it depends on your run rate. Unfortunately for us, at a bootstrap level, we were only able to scale it to 1.2 CR per year before we raised our round. Had that number been 3 or 4 times more at the initial fundraising time, I would have diluted much lesser equity as well, right? So these are the ways it correlates. What I'll do is I'll try sharing one interesting article that explains this process really well, and maybe that can be shared on the Coffee Board WhatsApp group.
Wonderful. We are completely running short of time now, sir, because you have given me a time of 6 o'clock, 10 minutes. Just have 4 minutes to go. If there is any last question which you want to ask, go ahead. Let it be the the best question of the day.
So, hi Arman, Nashat here. So, you said from 1 lakh to 10 lakh, right, to scale it up. So, what is that? You said got involved in various digital marketing and retail space. So, what is that? Is it that offline or that online that triggered you to that particular 10 lakhs from 1 lakh to 10 lakh? And what is that you think is the trigger?
So it was mainly online. It was mainly online that got us from that 1 to 10 mark, right? Like I said, we were doing that one organically, right? Like I had to do nothing for that one to come, nothing at all. Just exist, right? It was when we started marketing, we said, okay, like I explained the process. You spend 15,000, you see the result. When you spend 25, you see the result. You spend 50, you see the result. And you keep optimizing your marketing and keep that improving continuously. With that, in the next 7 months, we were able to hit that number. Of course, no doubt that in that time, while online also grew, we did get into some of the top modern trade. We were available in about 40 stores in NCR, 40 retail stores, but the best retail stores, right? And we were available at some restaurants and cafes that I was talking to you about. So we partnered with some restaurants and cafes where we created a cold brew menu, and we were available on that. So it was everything was little, but cumulatively we were able to hit that number and grow from there.
Well,
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much,
I
Arman.
have,
Thanks, Arman.
Is it okay if I ask that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
The cold brew is something new for India. There's not many people have already started with cold brew. Something new. See, my sales usually goes down in the month of summer, so it's better for me to start something in cold brew as well. Tell me something which is the next thing. So, what is the next in the coffee industry?
What's next in the coffee industry? That's a very tricky question. You're making me give up all my secrets.
Actually, Mr. Sharath, I believe you are a very experienced roaster. You should be telling us. Mr. Sharath?
Yeah, that's right. Because see, my sales usually goes down in summer, so I got one idea of doing cold brew.
Yeah, cold brew is going to be this thing. In fact, as and okay, he will confirm, Starbucks' major revenue has shifted from hot brew to cold brew. So Indian market, I suppose, will be accepting cold brews. I suppose is that correct, Arman?
Yeah, I mean, Indian market is accepting cold brews, no doubt, but keep in mind that it is still a small percentage of the Indian coffee consumption would be cold brew. While it is growing year on year, it is still very small. That is one of the reasons why we ventured from cold brew into the hot brew market as well, right? Mind you, when I tell this, in India, even on the hottest summer day, you will find people who would like to wake up and start or have a hot beverage during the day. While I fail to understand it, it is the reality, right? And we as a company had nothing in the hot brew coffee space, right? At least with our style and our way of doing things. So that's how we got into the dip coffee bags and launched that product. And it's a very, very important part of our product portfolio. I remember our investors told us at the time also that, aren't you a cold brew brand? Why are you doing this? Aren't you a cold brew brand? And of course, he was looking at, Singapore and UK and other places where maybe brands are specifically cold brew and that's all they do, right? But we realized that, we went back. What is our mission? Why do we exist, right? We always had in our mission or our existence that we will make drinking coffee convenient. Cold brew was a means to do that, right? So is hot brew, so on and so forth. So we will try and, always ensure that the products that we bring to the market are allow to be made in a convenient manner and make coffee consumption in any way or form easier for the end consumer. having said that, everyone who's doing, with the micro roasteries and the nano lots and the single estate production, we have a heart out to all of that work that's going on. But our presentation to the consumer is that, this is what we believe is simple and easy. And that's why, we have people like Benjamin who have moved from instant coffee to starting their journey with Sleepy Owl. We don't say start and end your journey with Sleepy Owl, but start your journey with Sleepy Owl and definitely explore everything that the Indian coffee ecosystem has to offer.
Well, we have pinched as much time as we could from Arman. We are just at 1 minute past the time mark here set.
There's no problem with that at all.
Sharad, thank you for asking the question. In fact, I need to, with your permission, we'll conclude this session. Thank you so much. You've been very, very frank. Not many entrepreneurs are as frank as you are. And that's the secret of the success, in fact, being very open with things which are most common. And this is a fantastic session we have. Thank you so much, Arman, for sparing so much of time with you.
My pleasure. And I must just add that, today, all of you here, I'm so grateful that you all came and discussed so many things with me and learned about me. It is unfortunate, I love talking, but it is unfortunate that today I haven't gotten to know too many of you personally or well at all. In fact, it was only when Weber mentioned that we have a wonderful roaster in our presence that I realized that, okay.
Actually, we have legends in this this thing. We have Dr. Sulamili Menon. She used to head the coffee division, coffee quality division here.
I did notice her. I did notice ma'am on the panel, but as even though I'm the guest today, I was a little scared to address her and introduce myself, but I will take the opportunity to do so.
In fact, please take time to visit our website. We have listed our incubators. Many of them are here. They're all tech entrepreneurs. There are roasters. There's Akshay Mehta, who's a roaster. There is Mr. Jai Kumar, who asked you a question. He's about smart coffee growing. And we have a blockchain expert as well. They're wonderful people. In fact, I would like to invite all the participants here to join the pre-incubation program and also our incubation program. In fact, I invite Mr. Arman as well because he has a potential, his company has a potential to reach out to the entire South Asian market or also the Southeast Asian market and the further ahead. To reach out to the markets, we can be of wonderful help to you. To join our program. The pre-incubation program is open for registration. I've shared the link on the chat. Please do register for that. Thank you so much, Mr. Arman. It is a wonderful session which you have offered.
Likewise.
We would like to interact more with you.
I've left my email ID and my phone number for anybody who wants to get in touch to introduce themselves or to have any discussion offline. We'll schedule a time together, and I would love to learn more about everyone as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just want to add one line, Arman. It was a wonderful presentation. You were so simple, so outspoken, and I think you really have coffee in your heart, probably in your heart, in your hands, in your eyes, in your nose.
Thank you.
I think I just want to say thank you very much for being so open and sharing your knowledge with everyone. You can always contact me, and anytime you need any help, I'm always there for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Vaibhav. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very well. Always a pleasure hearing you. Thank you so much. Be part of the coffee journey. Let's spread the wonderful aroma of coffee throughout the country like Arman is doing. He has the right market, the right product, and he has the right passion, as ma'am just noticed. Arman, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
You spent so much of time with me. Thank you so much. Thank you thanks to all the participants. With this, with your permission, Arman, I'm going to close the session.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.